Okay, now for a fun one. Let's talk tattoos. I love tattoos. I love the culture of tattoos. I love the history of tattoos. I love just about everything about them. And I wanted to do this video describing my process and how I approach designing my own tattoos and uh, how I choose to get them and where I choose to get them. And the reason why is because I never really got into that before. And I have my next tattoo appointment coming up in May on the 6th. And I want to document that one with just some videos. Now, I would post pictures of the tattoos that I would get on Instagram, but I never actually got into why I got some of the tattoos that I got and how I went about designing them and why I placed them where I placed them. I have tattoos everywhere. And it used to wait about 5 to 6 to 7 years to get a tattoo because I wanted to really think about what I was getting. I started getting tattoos in my mid-20s. Ironically enough, the first tattoo I got, or it was like closer to my early 20s, right after I wrote The Wooden Heart, the book that Guillermo del Toro stole and made a movie and won an Oscar on. Right after I wrote that book, I started getting this, The Wooden Heart. That was the name of my graphic novel, The Wooden Heart, a Pinocchio story by C.J. Drayden. I started with this, and then I branched it out, and then I got a little bit more rendered and I got it swung around, and I have a lot more of the piece done. I lost the process that I did to start that with my first tattoo, starting with the Wooden Heart tree, which was an element from the book, the main part of the book, the tree that the man chops down to build Pinocchio from that tree. My last tattoo was adding that panel from the book showing the man chopping the tree down. Let me show you how I started. So I have this piece of process showing you a reference of my body with where I was going to get the fetus. Because in the story, the man chops the tree down and builds the Pinocchio doll from the tree out of grief and death. The son and the wife is buried under the tree. So in the illustrated abstract form of it, in the book, there's shots of the fetus, of the guy losing his mind, and he's seeing the fetus in the tree, and the doll comes out and he hands him the fetus. So what I wanted to do was illustrate on my body more of an illustrated version of it, like an illustration of it, of a full anatomical idea of just summing up the book in one illustration. So I wanted to put the fetus under the tree. So at this point in the process, there's the reference photo. I'll take a reference photo and I'll paint on the glass and just kind of make a gesture of where I want the fetus or the design on my body. Now, I do have this piece done. I posted some pictures to Instagram. Maybe I'll post them in this video. So that's basically how I do it. I'll take a reference photo and then I'll just sketch on the glass where I want it. And the reason why I like doing this is because then I can move it around, change the size, change other elements. And as I decided where I wanted this, then the next piece was to decide how I was going to connect that tree to this, because I had two different artists do this. I had my friend Will Ralston do this, and my friend Nazul do this part of the illustration tattoo, and I chose her for a reason. I love the way she does her colors. This is what the final design came out like. Actually, let me show you this first before I show you the reference. I painted on 3 layers of glass the final version of the fetus, okay? So in the story, I just kind of sketched out the tree that's already on my chest. Then I did the fetus. I rendered out the fetus a little bit more, illustrated how the tree was going to connect to the fetus, wrap around and under the feet, and then drop down my hip, the anatomical heart. And I did this on 3 layers of glass. And again, the reason why I did that was to be able to decide how I was going to break these elements up and position them. And it really came in handy when I was trying to iron out how to layer the tree branches around the fetus. And it was a very difficult way to do it. I didn't want it to I wanted it to come off like an umbilical cord, but I didn't want to be too on the nose. I wanted it to wrap like a tree branch and hold it in like a womb, and then show the heart drop down, an anatomical heart drop down under it. So it's all under the tree. Now, the interesting thing about doing it this way was I was keeping in mind that I didn't want to make a traditional fetus womb, because when you lock an object in a round shape like that, you're technically cutting off the other areas of the composition, and you don't want to do that to your body. Because if you cut off the other areas of the composition of your body, you can't build around that. I mean, you could, it would just look weird. So I wanted to continue to wrap around my body other designs as I get them. So I actually did it right there. And I'm gonna have the heart come down my hip. So I chose to piece it there. It actually comes down my hip all the way to my V. And then you have, I didn't do the heart because she fucked me up so bad with the deep cuts of the color and the black ink that I felt like she took a scalpel and was doing anatomical dissection on me. It hurt, and after a while I just had to call it after about 5 hours. That is one of the worst spots to get a tattoo. I was really excited about this one. I brought this to her after I designed it all out. I brought this to her of an old photo of me when I was getting a lot of this done, of what I really wanted the final piece to look like. So you had the tree come, you had the heart come under the tree that was there. I took the painting, put it in Photoshop, and then brought the heart down, and then I added that element in there. And that was the last piece I got. So now you have the full illustrated version of the book. You have the heart, the man chopping the tree down, and then you have the fetus from which the Pinocchio comes out of, and it's alive, and that's the heart. So this is how I approach my tattoo designs. Here's another reference I put of myself, of the showing a little bit more detail of how that fetus lands on my hip and my stomach and where the heart comes down. Well, the one thing I didn't do and add was the grave, the little tombstone that's in the book. I have one other thing that I can show you. Was I printed out references of the skull on my hand, which is the start of a design of Edgar Allan Poe's The Telltale Heart, one of my favorite stories ever written. And I used the skull to symbolize the death of the old man. And I printed out the photos of how I want to decide the glyphs. You have the vulture's eye, the clock ticking, driving him insane. You have the spider, the thread of a spider coming out of the thin tin ray, like the thread of a spider shot out and fell upon the vulture's eye. It was open, wide open, and I grew furious as I gazed upon it. I saw it with perfect distinctness, all pale and blue, and increased my fury as I gazed upon it. I love that story. I could narrate it by heart, but I want to design out the glyphs of that story on my hands. So I have to layer the glass and just kind of design it out. I printed those references out to do that, but I have not done it yet because I don't know how I'm going to go up my arm. And this is the other thing you have to keep in mind, at least I do when I do design my tattoos, is your body and its shape, thickness or thinness, vertical or horizontal, and how the designs and the things that you want work with your body's anatomy. Here's a piece. So I'm doing Edgar Allan Poe here, and I'm doing H.P. Lovecraft on this arm, this hand and sleeve. I got Cthulhu here because I figured if I'm going to do H.P. Lovecraft, the best part to fit the hand and its appendages would be a Cthulhu. So I dropped the Cthulhu here and then dropped the tentacles down my fingers. And I haven't worked the sleeves of these two authors, these two famous works of Cthulhu, Call of Cthulhu and The Telltale Heart, because I really want to think about how the compositions go north on my arms and wrap around. So I'm working on, that's my dogs, excuse me. So I'm working on the other pieces first to get those done, and then I'm going to save my sleeves for last. But these aren't what I'm working on when I go see my tattoo artist soon. I have a brand new design that I want to post here that I'm going to do on another part of my body, but I'm going to do it exactly like I showed you how I do them here, but it's going to be probably somewhere on my legs. I'm thinking of my foot. And the reason why is because this is another thing that I'm, as a compositionally and always having foresight and being the insane artist that I am, I always start with the hardest parts of the body because I know what I want to illustrate, and then I move into the body from there, because working chest, torso, back, arms are easy, but trying to work a design within all the phalanges and the appendages, it's much more difficult to do. So I'm going to post the new design soon, but I really wanted to talk tattoos because I want to start posting all the previous tattoos that I got prior as content so you can see what I did.